What happens when a rookie quarterback, barely a few months into the league, suddenly gets thrown into one of the most chaotic games of the season with absolutely no warning? That's exactly what happened to Shedeur Sanders. And what unfolded next left fans stunned, coaches scrambling, and the entire league buzzing about whether Cleveland had just witnessed the beginning of something huge or the start of another disaster. Shedeur wasn't supposed to touch the field that night. He wasn't the starter, he wasn't getting first-team reps, and he wasn't even in the conversation to take over the huddle anytime soon. He came into the game as a backup. A talented rookie, sure, but one who had spent most of the week working with practice squad receivers instead of the guys he'd be throwing to under the brightest lights. And then suddenly, one hit changed everything. The starting QB went down, the stadium went quiet, and every camera in the arena swung toward the rookie who wasn't supposed to be part of the story. Until he was, and the moment Shedeur stepped onto that field, the entire vibe shifted. Fans who had been frustrated all season suddenly perked up. Some even started chanting his name, hoping he might be the spark the team needed. But what they didn't know was that Shedeur was stepping into a situation so brutal that even veteran quarterbacks struggle with it. Down by a score, late in the game, facing one of the league's toughest defenses, and throwing to receivers he'd barely practiced with. His debut was rough. The numbers were ugly. The pressure was relentless. But the real story wasn't in the stat line. It was in how he responded when the game sped up, the stakes rose, and everyone expected him to fold. Because instead of cracking under the moment, Shedeur revealed something deeper. A mindset, a maturity, and a level of accountability that immediately grabbed the attention of fans and analysts who had written him off months earlier. And the truth is, this one unexpected moment may have changed the Browns' quarterback future more than anyone realized. Before Shedeur Sanders ever stepped onto an NFL field, the expectations surrounding him were already complicated. On one hand, he carried the name, legacy, and spotlight that comes with being Deion Sanders' son. On the other, scouts and analysts questioned whether his college success would translate to the pros. That's why his draft day slide, dropping all the way into the 5th round, shocked a lot of people. It wasn't just a fall, it was a statement from the league that they weren't convinced he was ready to lead an NFL offense anytime soon. But Cleveland saw something different. They didn't draft Shedeur to be a star on day one. They brought him in as a long-term play, someone who could develop behind the scenes while the team sorted out its quarterback chaos. And chaos is exactly what it was. The Browns had been juggling quarterbacks for months, trying to stabilize an offense that never seemed to find the right rhythm. Fans were already restless. The team was dealing with constant pressure from the media, and every game felt like a must-win situation. So when the season reached this particular matchup, nobody expected Shedeur to matter. He wasn't practicing with the starting receivers. He wasn't running the main playbook. He wasn't even getting reps that would prepare him for real in-game situations. He was simply the backup, the emergency option. The plan was simple. Keep him on the sideline, let him watch, let him learn, and let the season unfold without throwing him into the deep end. But football never sticks to the script. Halfway through the game, with Cleveland fighting to protect a tight lead, one play flipped everything. The starting quarterback took a hit that left the stadium holding its breath. Trainers rushed in, fans fell silent, and within seconds, the Browns had no choice but to look toward the rookie who hadn't expected to play a single snap. That was the moment everything changed. For the Browns, for the season, and for Shedeur himself. The moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field, it wasn't just sudden, it was chaos. 1 minute he was standing on the sideline with a headset, watching the Browns grind through a divisional slugfest. The next minute, Dillon Gabriel was on the ground, trainers surrounding him, and the entire stadium had that stunned, eerie silence that tells you everything has changed. When Gabriel was ruled out, there was no warm-up period, no extended huddle, no easing into the moment. A coach simply turned, pointed, and said, "Shedeur, you're in." That was it. He jogged onto the field with receivers he barely practiced with, into a game he was never supposed to touch, against one of the league's most violent and disciplined defenses. The Ravens weren't just talented, they smelled blood the second they saw a rookie with 0 NFL reps taking the snap. And they came after him immediately. The pocket collapsed faster, the windows were tighter. Every dropback felt like a survival drill rather than a structured offensive series. The stat line tells its own brutal story. 4 for 16, 47 yards, an interception, and 2 sacks. But the real story is in the details. His first throws to starting receivers were literally his first throws to them all year. His timing was off because he'd never developed timing. His reads were slow, not because he didn't understand the scheme, but because he'd never run that scheme with these players at full speed. And yet, he kept stepping into throws, kept trying to push the offense forward, kept treating every play like the one that could flip the momentum. And then came the drive, the moment that nearly rewrote the whole nightmare. Down 7 with under 3 minutes left, Shedeur finally started ending rhythm. Quick throws, smart decisions, controlled poise. He pushed the Browns into scoring position and delivered what could have been the game-tying touchdown, a perfect ball to the corner of the end zone. It slipped through the receiver's hands. A rookie was one dropped pass away from a miracle. Instead, the drive ended, the comeback died, and Shedeur's debut was sealed in frustration. But beneath the ugly numbers, one thing was impossible to ignore. When the pressure rose, he didn't fold, he fought. What made Shedeur Sanders' debut unforgettable wasn't the box score. It was everything he said after the game. Most rookies walk into their first NFL press conference nervous, guarded, or rehearsed. Shedeur walked in with honesty sharper than any headline the media could write. The moment a reporter asked how he thought he played, he didn't hesitate. No excuses, no sugarcoating, no explanations. Just, "I don't think I played good." Not at all. That level of accountability from a 22-year-old who was thrown into a storm he didn't create is something veterans struggle to show. But what came next revealed something deeper. Something franchise quarterbacks are built from. He admitted he didn't have chemistry with the starters. He admitted he hadn't thrown real timing routes to guys like Jerry Jeudy all season. And then he dropped the quote that exposed everything broken in Cleveland. His last real hit came at Colorado. Not preseason, not practice. His last college game was the final time he experienced real contact before being thrown to the Ravens' Pro Bowl defense. That's not a player issue. That's a preparation issue. Yet Sanders didn't complain. He didn't blame coaching, receivers, protection, or the situation. Instead, he said he felt fulfilled, finally getting to experience the real NFL speed. Fulfilled. After an interception, after a 25% completion rate, after the offense stalled under him. That's not delusion, that's hunger. That's a young quarterback who wants the smoke instead of running from it. Then came the moment that truly separated Shedeur from the average rookie. When fans chanted his name while Gabriel was still on the field, he didn't smile or soak in the spotlight. He actually felt uncomfortable. He said he didn't want to be a distraction, didn't want Gabriel losing confidence, didn't want the team divided. That's leadership. Rare, raw, and genuine. And finally, the quote that will follow him for the rest of his career. "Losing isn't something I'm comfortable with. This happened on my watch." Not many rookies talk like that. Even fewer truly mean it. Shedeur's mindset didn't erase the ugly debut. It transformed it into the foundation of something bigger. The harsh truth is this. Shedeur Sanders didn't just battle the Baltimore Ravens. he battled his own organization. And for anyone who actually watched his debut, it became painfully clear that Cleveland didn't set him up to succeed. The kid wasn't just thrown into the fire, he was tossed into it blindfolded. Think about this for a second. A rookie quarterback, drafted into a franchise starving for stability, went into a real NFL game without meaningful reps with the starters. Not a single week of timing with the receivers he was supposed to lead. Not a single live rep beside the offensive line meant to protect him. His first real throw to Jerry Jeudy happened in an actual NFL game against one of the league's best defenses. That's not unfortunate. That's unacceptable. And when Shedeur revealed that the last time he took a real hit was at Colorado, everything snapped into focus. How does an NFL staff look at their backup, a highly drafted investment, and never prepare him for the moment they knew could come at any time? Especially with a starter as inconsistent and injury-prone as Gabriel, preparation isn't optional in the NFL. It's the entire job. The Browns failed him long before he stepped onto that field. Even the hungry dog reps, the extra work he took with backup receivers, showed how little the organization invested in his readiness. Those sessions helped him learn concepts, sure, but even he admitted the truth. Different body types, different speeds, different ways receivers break out of their routes. Practice squad timing is not NFL starter timing. And yet, despite being unprepared, Shedeur nearly delivered a game-tying drive in the final minutes. He trusted the only receiver he had chemistry with, Gage Larvadon, a practice squad grinder who became his go-to target because the system failed to give him anyone else. The Browns didn't just fail to support their rookie quarterback, they failed to protect their future. Sanders owned his mistakes. He owned the loss. But nothing in his debut was solely on him. The organization handed him a broken blueprint and expected magic. The kid deserved better. And everyone, Atching knew it. For all the chaos, all the misfires, all the moments where it looked like the game was slipping away, Shedeur Sanders still found himself standing at midfield with the ball in his hands and a chance to rewrite the entire night. That final drive wasn't just football. It was a window into who he really is when everything is collapsing around him. Most rookies would shrink after a night like this. Shedeur didn't. He locked in. With under 3 minutes left, trailing by 7, he walked into the huddle like someone who'd been there 100 times. No panic, no hesitation, just a quiet confidence that didn't match the stat line at all. And the moment the ball snapped, everything looked different. He started making quick reads, moving the offense down the field with a level of control that hadn't been there earlier. It felt like he suddenly woke up, or maybe he finally stopped thinking and started playing the way he knows how. The defining moment came in the red zone. The Ravens brought pressure, the pocket collapsed, and Sanders fired a perfect strike to Gage Larvadon, the one receiver he actually had chemistry with. Gage had the ball in his hands in the end zone. For a split second, the comeback was real. The stadium held its breath. This was the throw that could have turned a nightmare debut into a legend-in-the-making story. But football is cruel. The ball slipped away. Incomplete. And here's the part that tells you everything about Shedeur Sanders. He didn't flinch. He didn't sulk. He didn't look at the ground or shake his head. He talked about the play afterward with the same calm, steady belief he carried into the huddle. He said he trusts Gage because they grind together. He said he thought it was going to be a completion because he always believes that until proven otherwise. That's not arrogance. That's a quarterback's mentality. Even on a night where nothing went right, Sanders put together a drive that showed exactly why fans were chanting his name. One throw, and he almost flipped the script entirely. It wasn't redemption, but it was a glimpse of the future. A future where, with real preparation, that ball doesn't fall incomplete. In the middle of all the chaos surrounding the Browns this season, one thing has become impossible to ignore: the sharp spotlight on leadership. or the lack of it. When a team starts spiraling the way Cleveland has, every decision, every sideline moment, and every soundbite gets magnified. Fans aren't just watching the games anymore. They're watching body language, reactions, and who steps up when things go sideways. And right now, the question is simple. Who is truly leading this team? You can see the tension building week after week. From players looking frustrated on the court, sidelines to coaches doubling down on questionable decisions, the cracks are visible. A real leader isn't just someone who talks about accountability. They create an environment where everyone feels responsible for the result. Whether it's missed assignments, blown coverages, or an offense that can't stay on the field, the Browns haven't shown that unified sense of direction. And that's why the criticism feels sharper this year. It's not just about losing games. It's about losing control. But leadership under fire also reveals something important: character. When everything is going wrong, when the media pressure is suffocating, and when fans are demanding answers, that's when you find out who's built for this level of scrutiny. Some players have tried to keep the locker room steady, offering calm voices and staying dialed in even when the noise gets loud. Others, however, have visibly struggled with the pressure, letting emotions spill over in ways that only fuel the narrative. This season has become a test, not just of talent, but of poise. The Browns don't just need someone who can make big plays, they need someone who can set the tone, steady the team, and reset the mindset. Leadership under fire is about stepping into the storm, not shrinking from it. And if Cleveland doesn't find that core identity soon, this rough stretch could turn into something much harder to recover from. As this Browns storyline hits its boiling point, one thing has become painfully clear. This season hasn't just been about football. It's been about identity, accountability, and the widening gap between expectations and reality. What started as a year full of promise has turned into a spotlight exposing every weakness in the franchise. Shaky decision-making, inconsistent performances, and a locker room that looks like it's fighting frustration as much as it's fighting opponents. And while fans have seen tough stretches before, the intensity of this moment feels different. It's heavier, it's messier, and it's sparking conversations the organization can't afford to ignore. Cleveland entered the season wanting stability, leadership, and a clear direction. Instead, what they've displayed is confusion. At quarterback, on the sidelines, and even in the energy around the team. When players start visibly showing their frustration, when coaches look like they're running out of answers, and when fans begin turning their criticism into action, whether that's calling for changes or simply checking out, you know something deeper is broken. The Browns are no longer dealing with a bad week or a rough patch. They're dealing with a narrative that now threatens to define them. And this is where the real stakes lie. Seasons like this don't just create noise, they create turning points. Moments where a franchise either steps up and fixes what's wrong, or continues down a path that leads to even more chaos. The Browns still have the pieces, the talent, the fan support, the potential. But potential without direction eventually collapses under its own weight. So as Cleveland moves forward, the question isn't just, can they win? It's, can they regroup? Can they lead? Can they rebuild trust with the people who've stuck with them through everything? The next chapters in this story will reveal whether this team can rise from the pressure or crumble beneath it. But one thing is certain: whatever happens next, the entire football world is watching.